Hello everyone and welcome back to SAFC Fan TV and a rather impromptu episode of Thursday Night Live. We weren't meant to go live tonight. We're going to have a little break while it's a national break on, but with the news this morning announced that Jermain Defoe has ended his professional career, that he's retired. But we'll go live just for a short while just to give our thoughts on it. Make sure you get yourselves in on the live chat as well. Put your thoughts in there, read out as many comments from the live chat as we can. But introducing the panel tonight, I'm joined by Terry, the Mad Mistake. Terry, how are you doing?
Champions had nice curry and a bottle of cider, so I'm feeling better now.
Ooh, sounds like a very nice combination. We're also joined by Jacob Kirkbride. Jacob, how are you getting on?
Not too bad, mate. It's been, a couple of weeks since I was last on, but good to be back. And obviously it's a shame it's the subject we're touching on tonight is not the one we would have liked, but hey-ho, we come on to discuss these things, so hopefully you enjoy the show, guys.
Much better camera quality, Jacob. Have you got a new laptop or something?
New phone, mate, new phone.
Oh, and a new haircut.
Yes, looking very attractive. Bit of eye candy for us tonight. Speaking of eye candy, we're also joined by Jack Shields. Jack, how are you? Oh, I think he's
looking forward to another interesting hour talking about Sunderland.
There we go. Always to the point is Jack Shields. Yes, lads, we may as well get on to the main news straight away then. We're going to talk about Defoe, the recruitment strategy, anything you can probably think of that relates to it really, but we're just going to start with a pretty basic, simple question of why do we all think he's decided to retire? There are a few weeks left of the season, I think 7 or 8 games, and then of course the playoffs, should we get there. We're light up front really, aren't we? We've not got many options up there. If Stewart gets injured, that leaves us with even less. Broadhead still coming back from a hamstring injury. You don't really know when he's going to return to full fitness. And apart from that, it's probably a mixture of players or midfield, wingers or midfielders getting converted there, or maybe playing a young and experienced lad up front. Terry, I'll start with you. Is there any major reason why you think Defoe's decided to retire when it seems like a bit of an inconvenient time, doesn't it? Really, for us anyway.
It's taken me by complete surprise. I mean, before that Sun article, I thought I've seen him over the last few. He's come on a sub a couple of times, had a couple of starts, and I've thought against Fleetwood and the last game he's looked a bit sharper, a bit not like his old self, but he seems to be coming on with every game, getting fitter and fitter. And I thought he'd be an asset towards the back end of the season, towards the last 3 or 4 games, and run up towards the playoffs. And I'm gutted, overwhelmed. I can't believe he's retired. I thought you would see to the end of the season, and then, have your last home game in front of all the fans, round of applause, end your career then. But is he being sickened off by something? Is there something going on at the club that he doesn't like? Is he does not like something that in the background? Is it like when Roy Keane came in and then found out who owned the club, got sick as a chip and didn't want nothing to do with Sunderland? Has he been worn down over the last 3 or 4 weeks with when he's been on the pitch, not getting any service? They don't play to the style of football he wants to sort of play for. I think it's the numerous lots of things. Is his body actually catching up with him? Age of 39, I thought he looked quite fit. He says he's lost a yard of pace, but everybody does at that certain age. You've got the guy who still plays for Wycombe. He's got no pace, never had any pace, but he knows where they play to his strengths. Surely we could have played to Defoe's strengths, get the bottom in the box. He'd probably score a goal. So I think he's probably getting disheartened over the last few weeks, and maybe he's missing his family. I mean, I don't know. He's always been away from home, up at Rangers and all over the place. So I think it's a strange one. Is there something to do with Madrock, something to do with the owners? Have they just... I understand. There's so many conspiracy theories going around in my head. I could just talk all night about it.
Yeah, I do feel a little bit let down, to be completely honest. I know Defoe's got his own personal life and, there may be a problem with that. He might have family issues going on in the background and, playing football just is a bit of an inconvenience, and he's came to an agreement or end his contract and retire, and that's what he's decided to do. But, I think apart from that, like I say, I do feel a bit disappointed by it. We're very light up front. If anything does happen to Stewart, Broadhead isn't really at full fitness yet, and we don't know when he's going to be able to consistently play full games. And he's only one probably bad stretch away from being out for the rest of the season. And I just feel like with only a few games left, you know, he would stick it out. It pains us to criticise Defoe when he does, because I've got great memories of him when he was last up here. But I do feel like he's thrown the towel in a little bit. Just my personal opinion of what I've seen. I think he probably came thinking, you know, obviously with the standard being lower to what he's been used to, that he'd still be able to make a good impact. And then he hasn't been able to. He hasn't been able to get his fitness and his pace up back to what it was. And I just think he hasn't played as well as he thought he might have done. And instead of sticking literally the sake of 5 or 6 weeks out for the rest of the season and potentially making a massive difference in our playoff push, because every player, and especially every striker we have now, could be the difference between us going up or not. I just feel like he's decided to pack in now as opposed to seeing the rest of the season. And like I say, it's not easy for us to say, because Jermain Defoe was my favourite Sunderland player of all time. And it got great memories of him here before. We were also buzzing when he came back, but like I say, it does feel a bit disappointing. Jack, before I go to you, I'm trying to quickly go to the live chat. Hello to Dan Humphrey, Peter Salkfield, Jimmy, Thean SAFC, Stephen Amos, John Forbes, Jake Parkinson, Patrick Ward, Richard Northage, and Swan269. All joining us there in the live chat as well. 118 people watching, 18 likes. So if you haven't already, please do press that thumbs up icon. Give us a like if you haven't already. See if we'll get 100 before the end of the stream. Jack, I'll go to you on this. How do you feel about the news of Jermain Defoe retiring?
A little bit let down, a little bit flat, to be honest. I think we all had expectations when Defoe came to Sunderland that it would lift the place. You know, we're going through a bit of a bad run. We'd lost Lee Johnson, who got the sack before a few days before the window, and I think the place needed a bit of a lift, and we certainly got it, didn't we? Jermain Defoe's coming back. All the fans were absolutely buzzing on social media. We all came on here and did the podcast, and we were all happy. And I think it's just everyone's just a bit flat, a bit let down. It hasn't worked out the way that we thought. I think every man and his dog would know that you weren't going to get the Jermain Defoe of the first time around, and you certainly weren't going to get Jermain Defoe when he was playing at Tottenham. And scoring goals for fun, but we still expected a player probably on his day a little bit better than the level we're at. We still expected a few goals, and when he came on a few times, I noticed that he wasn't quite sharp. He wasn't involved in the games, but I put that down to a lack of fitness. I put it down to lack of match minutes, and I thought he might be able to build that up. I think it's not just this season. When you look back over the last couple of seasons, he went to Rangers. He didn't actually play that much for Rangers. This season barely played at all. I think he played something like 30-odd minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 39 minutes, something like that. I can't remember the exact figure, but it wasn't very many minutes. And I just thought maybe he needs a few games. And I think it's just the timing of it that's really strange. You know what I mean? Everyone expected him to go at the end of the season. I think if he'd scored the goal to get us in the playoffs, or get us promoted, it would have been a fairy tale ending for him. You know, sail off into sunset, everyone lifting Jermain Defoe off the pitch on the shoulders. And I think that was what, you know, all of our fans wanted and hoped for. And it's just the timing, 6-7 weeks to go towards the end of the season. Could you not stick it out? His fitness can't have been that bad that he couldn't have lasted a few more weeks. His fitness didn't look that poor against Lincoln. I know he snatched at a chance, but I think it was just the minutes that he needed to build up, which I know we haven't got many games between now and the end of the season. But just the timing seems really strange, and it makes me think, why has it happened now? Is it something to do with the broadcasting? Has Sky come in and offered him something that he needs to finish now and get something later on next season? But they want him to leave Sunderland and cut all ties. I really don't know. But yeah, it's just a strange one. It's come out of the blue. I'm not hugely disappointed because I don't think he was contributing that much to our matches anyway when he came on. But just a bit flat. You know, we expected something better than what we've got, and we've been dumped on yet again.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. That I think we all expected a little bit more. At the very least, I think we all thought if he's given a few chances, he will put them away. And I think he has had, I can think of two pretty decent chances. The one against Fleetwood on the Tuesday night, we were already 2-1 up in all fairness. And then again, Lincoln away. Yeah, Lincoln away. I felt as if there was a good opportunity that he squandered. So he was getting, that he did have a couple of chances to score. I think we all expected a little bit more from him. But personally, I felt as if he was getting there. His fitness was starting to get a little bit better. week by week, and he was starting to get a bit more sharpness. And I think with the overall team performances improving as well, I felt like it was all looking up, and that it wasn't going to be long before maybe we could really get the best out of him. It just feels so silly to kind of call it a day now when there's not long to go for the end of the season. Jacob, before I go to you, just quickly back to the live chat. The Casual Observer says Benji Kimpy Plotty, Sunderland's number 10. Hopefully we don't hear that song sang by the Sunderland fans for the end of the season. Tony Lee as well is on there, says, all right, lads, no Monkey, no Philly is not joining us this evening. Patrick Ward as well, saying he thinks that Jermain Defoe has left because of the board. I'm sure there'll be some interesting thoughts on the panel on that one as well. Brian Halliday saying Lee Johnson was right after all, and he adds that Tyrese Dice and I think it's Sam Wilden have gone on loan till the rest of the season. Correct, they have done. Jacob, I'll go to you. Jermain Defoe's retirement, and then what's your thoughts on it?
Difficult one to take, Jack. I completely agree what Jack said before. Obviously, the timing is very strange. 7 games left this season. Could he have seen it out? I think, people can speculate all they want about the reasoning of the decision he's made, but I guess we'll never get to the actual bottom of it unless he does like an interview where he's put questions on the spot. But listen, there's nothing we can do about it now. I think the main person you need to look at in a situation like this is Christian Speakman. We knew what we were letting ourselves in for. It doesn't matter. He is Jermain Defoe. He's got Premier League experience. He's done it before for us. But let's not forget, he signed being a 39-year-old forward who'd only played, like Jack said, 30 minutes previously earlier on in the season with Rangers. And it was always going to be a risk. But the saving grace you have from that is in the weeks that we've had him at the football club, just being on the players we've currently got in our squad, being on the same training pitch as him, someone who's played at that level, played against the best players, played in Europe, England World Cup squads, can surely give motivation and inspiration, that can be the standards that I can reach one day. That can be the goals that I aim to eventually achieve in my career. That's the only saving grace we have from it. I mean, I know it's a long way off at the moment, but could there be an injury in there? Who knows? And obviously we don't know on how well he may have got on with the manager, Alex Neil. And I think he'd only started, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 2 games. I think he started against Crewe. I'm not sure. I think it was Burton, the other one he started. Yeah. So could he have been frustrated he wasn't starting enough games? Alex Neil makes that decision. We'll never get to the actual bottom of it. And I think it will be, unless he's, like I said before, he's put on the spot in an interview, whether he'll mention it. But then again, will fans believe really what he's saying? We'll never know the actual side of it. But 2 strikers fit now, worrying times. I think another saving grace, I would say, from it. Obviously, the club would have had to have done their best, to try and encourage him to see out the season. But you could say the fact that they've resulted to this, could that suggest that, players who are out injured, are attacking players like Aidan McGeady and Nathan Broadhead, will they be fully fit and up to scratch it for the next league game against Gillingham? Could that be the reason why they've more or less given the green light for him to retire, because they will be fully fit for that next game? Who knows? There's obviously speculation on social media today, even some on the chat here tonight, but we've got to move on. We've got to move on. He's still a Sunderland legend in my eyes. Obviously, this kit here means a lot to me. Him scoring that left-footed worldie against the Mags back in 2015, a moment that will stay with me forever. And the stuff with Bradley Larry. Jermain, mate, you're a Sunderland legend in my eyes. I'll remember you forever. Absolute gem to have at our football club, mate.
Well, I think that's a nice segue for what we're going to get into next, what the next question is going to be. But just before we do, quickly going back to the live chat, David Watkinson, he praised like happens to Stewart, or we're really screwed. Tony Lee on there as well, saying nostalgia doesn't win your football games. In all honesty, it was a poor decision to sign him. Hello to Ian Barron as well, the Darlington fan. He's become a bit of a regular on the live chat. He joins us tonight. And Ben Hansen as well says, same old joke, that is SAFC. And nothing's going to surprise me anymore. Jacob, you touched on there. You're saying that you think Defoe's still a Sunderland legend. That was what I was going to get on to next, really. Jack, I'll start with you. Do you think let's be fair, been a little bit of a disappointing stint and now an early retirement, not even seeing the full season out. Do you think that's tarnished his reputation a little bit among Sunderland fans? Is he still a Sunderland legend or is not anymore?
I still think he's hugely, highly thought of by the Sunderland fans. I mean, this has only been a few months. You can't take away the goals he got, like Jacobs touched on, the wonder goal against Newcastle, the goal against Chelsea. And, he played a crucial part in us staying up. I think Big Sam said it when we stayed up that year. An interview asked him where would we be without Jermain Defoe, and he answered honestly, relegated. So I don't like to say he single-handedly kept us up, but he did play a big part in our survival, both 2.5 seasons he was at the club. So I still think he'd be hugely highly rated. Also, the fact, as Jacobs also touched on with Bradley Lowry, that was a really nice gesture, wasn't it? And I think not just with Sunderland supporters, that endeared him across all of football because, little boy going through what he went through, everybody kind of, was sad and sympathetic, but it also brought out the best in Jermain Defoe and showed, because let's not forget earlier in his career, he had quite a bad reputation, Jermain Defoe, you know what I mean? He had a few off-the-field incidents and really he went full circle with Bradley. I think, in my opinion, it doesn't tarnish his reputation slightly with me, but I think it does make you look back on it and think, you know what I mean? It didn't end on a great note, you know what I mean? I think, looking back now, everyone would say probably don't sign him in January, you know what I mean? If we knew what was coming, hindsight's a lovely thing, isn't it? But if we knew what was coming, people would say don't sign him. But I think it's just the timing. I think he has slightly left us in the lurch a little bit. We don't know the reasons behind it, but it has slightly left us in the lurch a little bit. I don't think any less of him, but I just think it's just sad. It's sad for him because from such a good goal scorer, he's got a poor end to his career. That's such a flat, nothing ending, isn't it? He's not playing and he's ended in League One. And it's just a bit of a sad ending for him, but I don't think it'll damage his reputation in Sunderland fans' eyes. Because you look back in the future, I think you look back on the good moments, don't you? You tend to focus on the positives.
Yeah, which is probably arguably as well why he might have even been brought back. People are kind of looking at the positive side of things overly more than the negative side of things. And I do echo what you're saying, especially with the Bradley Lowry situation. I think, he showed his class as a human being in that kind of whole episode there, really. And as well, like you say, that season we stayed up, I think it was our last season before the one we went down. It was Defoe's goals that kept us up, really, and he did have he has provided us with some great moments in his first stint at the club. Terry, I'll go to you now. Is there a bit of taste left in your mouth at all, or is Jermain Defoe still a Sunderland legend in your eyes?
Oh, of course he's a Sunderland legend, man. It's come back, but you probably won't even remember about him coming back in the future. You'll just think about the good times he did. Like I say, everything that Jack said there was spot on to do with Bradley, and he's even got his own foundations, he does his own charity. So he's a good man through and through. It's just like in hindsight, like I say, hindsight's a wonderful thing. In his mind, I bet he thinks he should have really retired when Rangers won the league and finished it there, be honest. But he's tried to give it a go. It hasn't worked for whatever reason. He says he's lost pace. That's the reason why he's given up the ghost at this moment in time. But he's probably just got sick of the whole situation. And you kind of got to blame the board a little bit as well, because I mean, did we ever think Jermain Defoe was going to come back? Probably didn't until deadline day. And why on the earth were we waiting until deadline day to bring in a striker that had no fitness in the first place? Because we were saying the whole of the deadline we needed a striker in at the club, and we never got one in. So it just proves how far down the club's come, and the club will never rise again until them idiots are out. Simple as.
Yep, fair enough. Stephen Amos on the live chat as well saying Defoe said he wanted to help the young players come into the team instead of him. That was one of the reasons why he said he was stepping down and retiring, actually, which I didn't really understand, because I think if there were younger players coming through the squad who weren't getting minutes because Defoe was, I would understand. But I feel like he's not really being given that many minutes, and I don't really see any younger players who are missing out because of him playing. So I didn't really understand what you were saying there, but just not what Stephen was saying in the live chat there. John T is on the live chat saying Alex Neil does not need him. Tam said, you just know he would donate the money, Nigel. He's just that kind of guy. Terry, I know you want him, but we've not beaten Jacob yet. Jacob, you want him?
Yeah, I was going to ask a question to Terry, actually. Terry, when you said was it those... we won't move forward as a club unless those idiots are out. Does that include Christian Speakman?
Oh, I don't know, because I'm thinking, I don't know whether Christian Speakman's working with KLD. And did he actually do a great job at Birmingham, to be honest? I mean, going forward, we need to get rid of Madrox first. That's the first thing. We need to get rid of Donald Duck and Salmon Pants. They're the two ones we need to get out of the club to begin with. Then we'll move it to the next level, to the next step. And that means Christian Speakman has to be replaced for the decisions that's being made over the season. I haven't got a problem with that either. And then I think, to be honest, what's Juan Santori done over the last few years? Nothing. Does he need to be at the club as well? He should really sell his shares as well. So to be honest, we need to get rid of the majority of the people at this club to move forward. And whether that's KLD when he gets his inheritance and it could be the only owner at the club, then I could handle that. I could accept that. But I can't accept is these leeches clinging onto the club. You go. I used to have a mate who used to go swimming down there, hitting Lions Park, and he'd come out and he'd have leeches all over his body. And that's what Stewart Donald are and Charlie Metford are now. They're just leeches clinging onto the foundations of Sunderland. They need to be bought out, simple as.
Fair enough. Quickly going back to the live chat. DJ says the what's on there saying, have the club been looking for a striker, but we didn't play it to full strengths this time around high balls. No good for him. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think a lot of the time he was playing, he wasn't really getting perfect service. I think we're getting there. I think we were starting to play better, and he was starting to get a couple of chances here and there. But I do agree, playing long ball before you're never going to get the best out of him. Terry?
I also think that thing about giving the youngsters the chance to come through is just an excuse for the real reason why he's left. That's just to make it sound good. But we all know there's only Broadhead, and if Broadhead doesn't get back to fitness, there's nobody else there because Kim Bioga's not good enough. And that's it. There's no one at the club at all. If Stewart's injured, we have to play someone like Clark and Roberts up top as a two somewhere. We just want to hope and touch wood that Stewart stays fit. And even if Stewart stays fit, it doesn't mean we're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I just think as well, though, I mean, Stewart's done well to avoid an injury all season, and I personally think he's the one member in the squad whose performances have never dropped. I know some people have criticised his form throughout the campaign. Personally, I think he's always had it, a 6-7 out of 10 performance every game. Even in games when we've been battered and it might not look as if Stewart's done anything, it's because he's been given no service, but the odd occasion the ball has came his way, I felt as if he's done everything he can with it. But you don't know what's going to happen to him. He's on international duty right now. He might come back with a broken leg. You just don't know. The morning of the playoff final, he might come down with a bug and be really unwell, and he can't play. So I do just think we need absolutely all the options we can. And before we do get on, who else it is we think we can maybe come in to kind of replace him if we do need another option up front. Just quickly going back to the live chat. Tony Lee says a great point, Terence. We won't even remember his return. Hello to Brian Gottner as well. Stephen Henslow just saying it was a PR stunt. And Brian Holiday isn't a big fan of blaming the board. Jacob, I'll start with you. Obviously, we're now an extra man down in the striking areas. We've got Stewart there. Broadhead slowly coming back to fitness. Is there anyone else who you think, if we have more problems up front, could kind of come in and be a viable option?
Well, it's good you've come to me, Jack. I've just had a gander on some of the players we've got out on loan at the moment. Jack Diamond at Harrogate Town. Will Grigg, not for me. It'll just create even more negativity amongst the fan base.
He would be putting goals in our goal to keep us in this division.
Josh Hawkes, who's at Tranmere Rovers. I'm not really sure.
He's left.
Fully?
Yeah, in January. I think we instead of sending him back, we just left Tranmere.
Another player we touched on and is being mentioned in the comments a few times, Kimioka. He came on and scored against Sheffield Wednesday earlier in the season, but I think, like Terry said, it's just a case of, I think if he was to be a player that can go to that next level, he would have kept his place in the squad. So clearly Lee Johnson, who was here before, and Alex Neil have obviously come to the same conclusion. He's not good enough, but it's really difficult. Like you said there, obviously Ross Stewart, he's away on international duty at the moment. I just hope that Steve Clark, the Scotland manager, just wraps him in cotton wool, after a training session, because if he gets injured, wow, we're in big, big trouble. I'll tell you that now. And, it still really staggers me, the fact, Nathan Broadhead, let's go back to that game against Charlton, shall we? He'd not kicked the ball in 3 months. People obviously in the week leading up to the game, he'd been pictured in training. Well, have him in the squad at least. But, you know, for Alex Neil to just throw him straight in to the starting lineup, he's not played a game since. You know, I wonder why that is. You know, probably because he's just absolutely exhausted. He's only just come back. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Basically, it got about 60-odd minutes, 70 minutes. Then he said he could feel something in his hamstring. Why are you letting it get to that stage? That's pathetic management for me. It's pathetic.
That strikes me as not managing his injury properly. That strikes me like we've cut corners all the way. We've rushed him back, and then when he said, "Oh, he thought he's 100%," he's not. He's only 60 or 70%, and that's why it's gone again. Or he's had a problem with it.
Yeah, and I think as well with the hamstring injury, it's not really a concrete comeback. You're only one stretch too far or one extra yard too quick or something before it's pulling up and you're out again. I feel like, you know, kind of going about the route of introducing them with 20, 30-minute cameos and slowly increasing his time off the bench, maybe a friendly or something would have been better than just throwing him in the deep end, you know, in a must-win game. I wasn't surprised to hear that he was injured, really. Yeah, I mean, Kim York, there's been a couple of suggestions on the live chat, and I'm sure a few people are maybe starting to think that. But personally, I just think he's just absolutely rubbish. I've got no other kind of way of putting it. He's never impressed us for the first team. I think, you know, he's got a little bit of pace about him, maybe, but no technical ability. He's not exactly a very good finisher of the ball. He's not very physical. Even when I watch him with the under-23s, I just tend to find that he fits in quite well. And to be honest, I think it's his attitude for me. I mean, I remember an under-23s game I was at earlier in the season at Appleton. It was against Southampton Sunday. It was a Sunday game. And we were 2-1 down. We were getting dominated as well, to be fair, by them. And the coach took him off. About 60, 70 minutes, brought another lad on, changed the formation. We actually ended up scoring 2 goals, playing really well in the last 20, 30 minutes and winning the game. But Kim York spent the 20, 30 minutes of the game, he was sat on the bench with his head in his hands. He was arguing with his coach. He had his head in his hands. He wasn't watching the game. He looked like he was close to tears of being subbed off. And I just don't think that's the type of attitude, nor the type of quality we need. For me, I feel like as much as he's finishing isn't good enough, Jack Clark is probably the closest thing we've got to another striking option at the club to come in. Jack, I'll go to you on this. Is there anyone who you think could come in and do a good job to help out up front?
Not really. Not in the current squad. I don't think we were strong in that area before Defoe went, to be honest. And now Defoe's gone, it's leaving us really, really bare, pinning all our hopes on Ross Stewart not getting injured. I know Jacob, and I think I've had a look down the free agents list, and I'm trying to think, is there anyone who can come in on a short-term deal? Hal Robson-Kanu has been mentioned, but I think realistically we're just going to have to just, you know, hope and pray that nothing happens to Ross Stewart. I don't think there's anyone out there that we can replicate that sort of, you know, player. And I think so much of our play goes through Ross Stewart as well. You know, you don't realise how much of how much he presses from the front. He's also an aerial threat. He's also a hold-up man. He runs in behind. He's the goal scorer. So Ross Stewart almost he's not just arguably one of the best players. He's also the main player, because our whole style is suited to Ross Stewart. And I think if you were to bring somebody in, you have to try and, like I say, replicate someone that's going to be that same kind of style. And I don't think we've got anyone out there that can even remotely come close to it. So to answer your question, no, I don't think we've got anyone out there. I think we're just going to have to sit tight and hope nothing happens to Ross Stewart. But it would be Sunderland, wouldn't it? It would be typical Sunderland if he gets a knock for Scotland or something like that. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope but it's what I'm worried about, and hopefully it won't happen. Like,
yeah. The good thing about Ross Stewart is, though, he's quite durable. He's taken some knocks all season up front. I mean, he gets kicked from pillar to post sometimes, and he still gets back up. So he's a tough cookie, like.
Yeah, and I think as well, if, like Jack touched on there, if Ross Stewart was to pick up an injury and be left out of the squad, it's not just his work in and around the box that I think we'd suffer from, but it's everything else that he does. When the midfield aren't particularly strong, we tend to, you know, resort more to a bit of a hoofball tactic or playing long balls into the channels and making them kind of run onto it. And I feel like because of his physicality, his work ethic, his height, his strength, he's able to kind of make use of nothing really and bring other players into the game when, you know, we're not really very comfortable. So yeah, I feel like it doesn't matter who else you bring in, no one's going to replicate that. Go on, Terry.
Well, I'll predict something now. If we're in League One next season, Ross Stewart won't be in League One next season.
No,
Yeah,
not a chance.
Well, that's another question we could touch on. I mean, we don't want to sell him, but if the worst comes to worst and Sunderland are in League One next season and we get a Championship club, what would he want to go, and B, if he does want to go, what price would we be looking at? Because people are saying, "Oh, say 5 million or he can't go," and I think realistically, I don't think we'd be able to get that much for him. I think his head would be turned. Anyone's head would be turned by a club at a higher level, even if it's a club that's historically not as big as Sunderland. Higher level, increase in wage. I mean, what would people be looking at for Ross Stewart? And do you think you'd want to be away?
I mean, it sounds negative, but I think we'll probably have to take what we can get. I think it was Swansea in the Championship. We're interested in him in January. Yeah. I feel as if part of the reason, I mean, I don't know if he wanted to go or not. I'm not sure. But I think if it was his decision to stay, I think part of the reason why he would have decided that was because we were in quite a good position at that point. And he thought, well, I'll stick out the rest of the season. Hopefully we get promoted. Then he's playing Championship football only 6 months later. But instead, he hasn't had to move club, move city. I don't know if he's got kids. He would have had to move his family. He's settled here. But I think come the end of the season, I feel like you'd have to take that chance. And I think he'd be doing himself a disservice if he didn't move on. I think he's proved himself at League One already. Probably going to finish as a top goal scorer for, let's be fair, not even one of the best sides in the league. Imagine what it would be like with a better team backing up behind him. Jack, to answer your question, I don't know how much money would have to demand. I think we'll probably have to go for what we can get, really, because I think he would be stupid to not try and get himself a move. Terry, same question.
He's at the right age as well. He's at the right age to move on to the next level. I think if he waits too long, he might get past his best. I think this next season for me will be the spot on season for him to move up to the next level. I think he's capable of doing it. Like I said, you said, I mean, if he had a really good team behind him, how many more goals could he actually score?
Yeah. Jitter, before we go to you, Brian Halliday on the live chat saying Dan Neil will be away too. Matt Mackham saying 1.5 million tops. I think that's a little bit harsh. Maybe squeeze a bit more out of
Jack, how long's his contract up for? When's his contract up?
The end of next season.
End of next season, right?
Which, he's only got a year left as well, which of course does play into it. David Jones in the live chat says 2 million with add-ons. And Sirius in the live chat saying Pritchard could probably do a job at false 9. I wouldn't want to have to resort to that, but I can kind of see where he's coming from. Jacob, how much do you think we'll get for Ross Stewart if he was to go at the end of the season?
I agree with you, Jack. To be honest, I think we could push a little bit more than 1.5. But going back to what you were saying before, I think Swansea were linked with him in January. Let's not forget that before he even signed for us, he signed from Ross County. I think I heard somewhere that he turned down Championship clubs to come to us back in January 2021. So just shows, what how the great attitude, he's got. He could potentially be playing at a higher level than us, but the fact that he's come to a club like ours, to help us out in a very difficult period, just sums up, I think that the admiration he's got, for us and also our fan base as well. At the end of the games this season that we've won in, he's always coming across to the supporters. He's always giving us a massive round of applause, really showing a lot of appreciation to our passionate travelling fans. And I think though, I think even if we go up, to be honest, I still think it's going to be, a tug and war game whether we keep him or not, because clubs will be looking at, he's going into the final year on his contract. He has got the capability, to, with the right players around him, to even push to that next stage. And I've heard one of the comments on the live chat at the moment, apparently he's on the bench tonight for Scotland against Poland. So yeah, wish him all the best. But like I said before, just please don't get injured, mate. Please don't get. I'd rather him not come on in that game at all. Just rather him just keep the bench warm all night.
Yeah, due to make his Scotland debut night. Of course, we all wish him luck. I think we all want him to do really well. But I imagine that if he does do a good job, and especially if he becomes a bit more of a Scotland regular, it will only increase his market value and make more clubs, in and around our kind of level at the minute with, Championship League One interested. Jacob, just as for you, so I think if we went up, I personally think if we actually got promoted, I do think Stewart would be interested in staying. I think if he was desperate to get away, he would have went in January when Swansea came sniffing around. But I think to me the problem more lies really with him I think the problem more lies with he'd probably want to get himself away if we don't get promoted, because there'll be another club available, and he's not going to want to spend another season in League One and end up kind of rotting here. Really, I think, does that probably concluded the Ross Stewart conversation?
No, I think I'm going to say we'll get about 4 million. I think 1.5 is far too low. I think for a striker in the Championship. I mean, how much was that Clark Harris estimated to be worth from the Championship? 7 million or something. I think out of the two players, I'd rather have Ross Stewart. Would you?
I think his profile's gone up as well. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I must admit, when we signed him, I'm going to be honest, I'd only really vaguely heard of him. Now he's getting named in Scotland squads. He's obviously well known in Championship and lower league level like we're at, and I think that probably will go against us. I think now and even the big old firms, someone like Celtic or Rangers. You know what I mean? They're not going to be the Celtic or Rangers can't sign Premier League level, even Championship level strikers a lot of the times out with their price bracket. So now they're looking at a Scottish lad known in Scotland, getting caps for in the Scotland national team. I think it'll probably work against us. I think minimum 3 million. I think 3 million up front, and then maybe add-ons like incentivized. If it gets promoted as part of another team, half a million and half a million here, and it's just disappointing, because like you say, he's such a focal point of our attack, such a leading man for us, not just in the goals that he scores, but how much of an important player he is for us. And at the minute, I just can't see how we replace him, but it's what we're going to have to look at probably if we don't get promoted.
Yeah, I think we've struggled with centre forwards, haven't we? And since we came out of League One, of course, Madger was brilliant in that first half of season, but even so, I think the contribution Stewart makes is a lot higher than Josh Madger. Madger was a great goal scorer, but I don't think he offered much else. Technically, he was an all right footballer, but he wasn't very physical. I wouldn't say he's very quick. He wasn't very strong, not very tall. Well, I think Stewart's got a lot more to his overall game. Since then, Wyke obviously came into his own last season and scored a lot of goals, but he needed a lot of service. The difference with Stewart is he doesn't really need as much service because he can kind of create chances on his own. He can, turn a half chance into a goal. And I think Wyke more needed the ball. To him, his overall play wasn't quite as good. He wasn't quick enough. Wasn't strong enough, I don't think. And, aside from that, there's a handful of other strikers I've had who, we've had a couple of loans that haven't really worked out. Danny Graham, of course, and players of that ilk that were clearly a little bit past it. Lads, are we all done on Ross Stewart, or has anyone got anything else they want to contribute? No, fair enough. Just before we do move on to our next topic, 146 people watching, 58 likes. So if you haven't already, please do drop us a like. Subscribing as well to the channel is free to do so, and you won't miss out on any of our future streams or videos. What I want to get on to next, though, Christian Speakman. There's been a lot of criticism of him on social media today, and it's grown as the seasons went on. Terry, I'll start with you. Where do you feel as if this leaves Speakman now? Do you think he made it as a PR stunt, and now a bit of criticism going his way is deserved?
Do you think Speakman had the final say, or do you think it was Chris? Do you think it was Dreyfus? Do you think it was Donald?
I think it'll have been a mixture.
Mixture of everybody. For me, I'm not so bothered about Defoe coming to the club. It's the lack of anybody else with him. We should have had another striker. If Defoe come as someone who's going to get fitter and fitter as the season goes on as a backup striker, fair enough. But for me, we should have had somebody in. You cannot wait the deadline day. We saw that with Will Grigg's situation. How many times we're going to do the same mistake season in, season out? You've got to have a striker in place way before deadline day. You've got to have someone there. If that's what we need, a striker, got to be in place. We piss about, and then it's a PR stunt to bring Defoe in, get bums on seats in the first home game. We know he's not fit. He wasn't even going to play. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything from Defoe until maybe it's about the last 10 games anyway. So Speakman, I've got no real great thoughts about Speakman, to be honest. I'm more interested in having one owner at the club. That's my main priority, having one owner at the club, someone who can actually run the club for themselves and put the money in and not worry about, right, I'm going to spend all my money, but they're going to put nothing into the club. So for me, that just divides the club.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel like, to be honest, on the recruitment thing, I praised it a lot initially, the kind of model of bringing younger lads in, more versatile players, I think, as well. Players who could hopefully grow with time and increase in value whilst with the club, instead of signing your typical kind of League One fodder, who are probably only going to go down in value. You might end up paying money for them to then end up going on a free and things like that. I just feel as if there needs to be a bit more balance in there of those types of signings, as well as, your kind of older, more experienced players as well to kind of help them out. And I hope that in the next window, if Speakman's given it another chance, he can kind of implement that and learn from his mistake a little bit there, really. As for the signing Defoe thing, I do think it was a PR stunt. Looking back on it now, I do side with the people who've been saying that. But I feel like he was, whether it was his decision or not, I do feel as if, there were a lot of people who would have been calling for his head if he hadn't went with it. I don't think he had full control over that. Look at the way a lot of fans went on about demanding Defoe to be signed. People within the club were probably, clamouring for it as well. So I do feel as if his hand might have been forced a little bit into that. Jacob, I'll go to you next. Christian Speakman, what's your overall thoughts on him?
Difficult, to be honest. I think the way how he handled the January window, I think, was questionable. Even the players he brought in. Let's obviously put aside Jermain Defoe. Obviously, he signed the likes of, Patrick Roberts, who he'd had very little game time over the last, was it a couple of months, I would say. But I know, he's starting to, we're seeing the best of what he can offer now. But, we'd really wanted players who can hit the ground running straight away. I think the only success he's had out of that window was Jay Matete. I still, even though he, for me, struggled a bit against Crewe and Fleetwood, I still think there's a player in there. I think he will be brought back after the international break. I think his spell out the side against Lincoln, I think, will do him the world of good. But I think over the summer, he has to get it right in terms of finding the right balance. I think he has to learn from his mistake that you can't rely on young, talented players throughout the course of a season. You have to get the balance right. You have to have experience around that. And I think that's the mistake he made. But I'm all for the type of players he wants to bring in. Young talented players, it's, for me, the future of football, youth. It's where a lot of the clubs today, are going in that direction. But at the same time, when you're down in League One, it is, when you're that age, you can be quite lightweight. You can get bullied off the ball. It's a strong physical league to be in, and you do need experienced head around you to guide you in difficult moments. And I think we have to, like I said before, get the right balance, bring in youth and talent, but at the same time, look at experienced heads, some the likes of players who've won promotions out of this league before.
Go on, Terry.
Yeah, wait, on about Matete coming back. Do you all feel there's a space for Evans in the side? Do we need Evans with the experience in our team at this moment in time? Could we not just have Neil, O'Nien and Matete in the midfield and just drop Evans altogether?
Yeah, we could. In a nutshell, I think he doesn't. I don't say what Corey Evans offers. You know what I mean? I mean, you can see the players that you've listed there. Dan Neil, very, very good on the ball. Excellent vision for a pass. Links up play pretty well. Luke O'Nien's energy is fantastic. He's a great utility player. Matete is good at winning the ball. He covers so much ground. Physical, got that physical presence. So you can list attributes for each of the three that you're given. I can't think of a single thing that Corey Evans does well. He doesn't really put any tackles in. He's meant to be a leader, but he doesn't lead. He's meant to be a captain, but I've never really seen him lead. Doesn't get forward and score goals. He doesn't get involved in the build-up of play. Not really sure. He's slow. I don't really see what he brings to the team. Yeah.
I mean, Luke O'Nien's a player that gets a lot of criticism, I think, especially when he's in midfield. And I understand why. I think his technical ability leaves a lot to be desired. But at least I can see what he does bring, which is, of course, versatility. If you want to change the formation or the tactic midway through the game, there's not many players I prefer to have on the pitch other than Luke O'Nien. You know what I mean? He can play just about anywhere. Physical, he can cover every blade of grass. He'll probably win a lot of his battles. And I do think, as well, he has got a bit of a knack of kind of getting in the box and doing things in the final third from time to time, and his experience in defence as well. He looked pretty solid as a centre-half, so I think he can win the ball and kind of, slow down attacks a little bit. But like you say with Corey Evans, I do agree with you, Jack. I just think he doesn't really offer, kind of anything, really. Lads, I just want to move on to one final topic, really. I'm not bothered if we get the full hour or not, but, we'll go through it. Of course, Defoe did sign the day after Lee Johnson was sacked. And I think a lot of people made a lot of that. A lot of people said clearly it was obvious that Lee Johnson didn't really want Defoe, and that's why he's been sacked, and that's why Defoe's now here. Terry, I'll start with you. What's your kind of feelings on Lee Johnson now, and that kind of debacle of the Johnson and Defoe conflict of interest that kind of seems to be happening?
I think Lee Johnson was sacked basically because we got beat 6-0. And the team was that bad. The performance was that bad from all of the players. It was like they didn't want to play for Lee Johnson. So for me, it's the performances like the 5-1 against Rotherham, like the 4-0 against Portsmouth, like the other bad results against Sheffield Wednesday. And so there's accumulation of results, but then 6-0, the worst in our history, to get beat in League One and not even look like at any point scoring a goal. That was the key. If we'd won that game against Bolton, I probably think Lee Johnson would be still here. I honestly do. I think that nothing to do with Defoe. I think it's all about. I think the whole Defoe thing, if it came down to it, they would have went above Lee Johnson's head and said, "Look, he's coming, simple as. Just put up with it." You know what I mean? Because end of the day, Lee Johnson has to coach his team, and they'll just bring Defoe in. There you go. There's Defoe. Coach him like all the rest of the players, whether he wants them or not, whether Alex Neil wants them or not. So for me, it was all down to that Bolton match, getting smashed 6-0, the morale of the players, the fans. It was an awful day. It was an awful result. And that was the reason why Lee Johnson went. I don't think it was to do with Defoe.
No, I do agree. Elliot Alderson on the live chat as well, saying, O'Ryan is class, plays for the club and not for himself. Yeah, I think that's the one I left out. He's a very selfless player, doesn't he? Always puts the badge first. Jack, your kind of thoughts on Lee Johnson and the Defoe kind of situation that was going on?
I just think it's smacked of, you could call it a PR stunt, but just to get the fans on side. I think the fans were a bit of a low ebb, weren't we? We've been smashed by Bolton. It was probably, as I've said a couple of times, the worst result in our history. I think I stand by that, losing 6-0 in the third tier. And it wasn't just the first time. I know, we're getting this revision of people saying, "Oh, why did we sack Lee Johnson?" But we had been hammered quite a few times this season. I think you think of Rotherham, you think of Sheffield, you think of Portsmouth, Bolton. There's quite a few. We were conceding a lot of goals, and I think the place was at such a low ebb. I think the board, they were just looking for anything to really try and spark the fans into life, spark the club into life. And what's the number one thing that's going to get people coming through the gates at the stadium? A little bit extra. Signing Jermain Defoe, I think. I think the model is now that the sign players automatically. I don't think that is the case, because hence why I think Lee Johnson did have reservations on it. We saw his interview. I'm not saying he wouldn't have signed him, but I think he was a bit doubtful. I think it's no coincidence that he went and we got him a few days later. I don't think he was putting the block on it, but I certainly think maybe it was the fact he didn't want to be challenged. Defoe's a similar age to Lee Johnson. He's far better career and probably more popular, so part of that might have come into it. But I think just looking at the recruitment policy and going back to Speakman now, it just seems like that whole January window was just a complete mess, wasn't it? We signed Tri-Hume, barely played, and actually I thought he's done all right when we played him. Yeah. Danny Bass had a pretty poor Sunderland career so far, hasn't he? I thought he would have been a better player, and he had one or two games all right early on, but it's gone rapidly downhill.
Yeah. Can I just quickly point out as well, play for the under-23s on Monday night, and I cannot really think of anything good that he did. Up against Burnley's kids, and all I can kind of remember from the game was giving fouls away, giving the ball away, and making mistakes defensively, and not being quick enough, cut open far too easily. But I'm sorry, I just thought I would add it. That's all.
No, it's fine. I just think we lost bodies as well, didn't we? We got rid of a few squad players, the likes of Hume, O'Brien. I think it was a really poor window for us overall. I think when you look back at that, you'll look back and think that was a pretty terrible window.
I don't even think Danny Bart's come to the club actually fit. I think he's come with a niggle. I think after a couple of games, he's picked up an ankle injury, and I think he's probably going to be out for the rest of the season. So I think, again, like I say, that's probably, even though he has the experience and he's done a great job in the past, he's probably come to Sunderland and we've picked him up with an injury. And it's just the story of Sunderland at this moment in time.
Yeah, Jacob, before I go to you, on your thoughts on Lee Johnson now a bit times passing this has happened. Trying to say 140 people watching, 75 likes. So we're only 25 likes away from hitting that magic 100. So if you haven't already, please do press that thumbs up button. Give us a like. See if we can get 300 before the end of the stream. And just a reminder as well, it is free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. Jacob, your thoughts on the Lee Johnson situation, and how do you feel about that now?
It's if buts, maybes, to be honest, Jack. I know people would say, would we have been in a similar situation now if we kept him in charge? Listen, he wasn't sacked because of that defeat at Bolton. It wasn't the first time, a defeat in that manner had happened. Look what happened at Rotherham, 5-1. Look what happened at Sheffield Wednesday, 3-0. Look what happened at Portsmouth, 4-0, 3-0 down at half-time in that game. So it's not the first time. Obviously, I've read on other comments on Twitter today, the likes of, not being able to, manage a game effectively against sides who've had 10 men, in the latter stages of games. Look what happened at Accrington Stanley. Look what happened at Shrewsbury. And, having the tactical nous to see out games. We have dropped key points when he has been in charge. I know the football's been pretty at times, but it's got to that stage now where a lot of the fans don't care, about how effective the football is you're playing. Just show evidence that you're really going to get the side on a good run of games to get us automatic promote, because that was the aim at the start of the season, automatic promotion, and now that's completely gone out the window, and now we're facing, was it potentially not even finishing in the top 6? Alex Neil's got 7 games, to pick up the pieces, and the main thing he has done is, he stopped us from, shipping in goals left, right, and centre. That's the main pat on the back he deserves. But at the same time, we've got to take our chances at the other end. And Lee Johnson, there was goals going in under him, but we were shipping in goals for fun. And let's be honest with I'm going to stand by. If we'd stuck with him in charge, we wouldn't have got promoted. Simple as that. I think sacking him was the right decision, and I think we give ourselves just a slight better opportunity, in going up with Alex Neil in charge.
Yeah, I think looking back at it, regardless of Jermain Defoe, I do think it was probably the right decision to get rid of Johnson at the time. I think there's only kind of so many really poor results you can account for already before I think your job's on the line. I agree. I think it was still probably the right decision to let him go. But poor window. Now we look back at it, really. David K in the live chat says, strong team versus Burnley, Jack. We were crap. I think I would agree with that, really. It was a lot of first teamers playing in there. Jamalji and Bart, I thought, were both poor at the back. Diaku, I thought, looked as if he fit in perfectly with under 23s. I think Embleton did okay. That's probably the only one who I would say did any better than terrible, really. Tom,
how did Hoffman do? How did Hoffman do in goal?
I mean, he considered
made a mistake, didn't he? 2
goals, didn't he? Really, he didn't cover himself in glory, I don't think. Tam on the live chat says Bart is as slow as a cart horse. Another jerk off signing there that wasn't thought through. Peter Stewart in every window we've had has been questionable for the last 5 years or more. And Stephen Hensel says how to get Sunderland fans to the gate, offer a free pint, then there'll be 49,000. Just very quickly as well, one more push for the likes. 146 people watching, 86 likes. So we're getting closer and closer and closer to getting 100 likes. But lads, I think we're probably more or less up tonight, unless anyone's got anything else to kind of want to throw out there to talk about.
I've got one more thing.
Go on, Jacob.
I've said this a few times on the channel since I've first started back in 2019. Going into the final 7 games of the season, keep the faith.
Oh well, Jacob with his contribution there, keeping us going for a few moments. But I think we'll probably just about end the stream there. I think we've probably been through everything. Terry, would you like to say good evening to all of our beautiful viewers and thank them for watching?
Have a good evening, everybody.
Jacob, you've said keep the faith. Have you got anything else you would like to add before we go off air?
Keep the faith.
Oh, you said it twice. And Jack as well, would you like to just round off the show?
Yeah, I hope everyone, I know it's only Thursday, but everyone has a good weekend. It's been nice to have, in a weird way, it'd be nice to have a weekend where we're not worrying about Sunderland and not tearing our hair out. And I know some fans will be gutted that there's no match to go to, but sometimes it's nice to have a Saturday where you're not stressed to bits tearing your hair out, shouting and screaming and swearing and having to drink 15 pints to get over it. So whatever people are doing, I hope they enjoy it. And I see you later.
Who swears at football games? Come on, who swears at the football games? No one swears, do they?
Every Sunderland fan's a swearer, Terry. I think you must have the patience of a saint if you watch Sunderland and you don't swear.
We have the most potty mouth fans ever.
Definitely not you, Terence. We've all seen your videos when you get a little bit angry and when you've had a little bit too much to drink. He does like to utilise a little bit of French in his videos from time to time. Just quickly go about the live chat. DJ says, Watson says, the best bit about Bolton was the half-time pie. I think that's been a lot of people's highlights of games this season, really. David Jones live chat in. Cheers, fellas. So thank you to everyone for watching tonight. Go on, Terry. He's got one more thing on side.
Yeah, the best thing about Bolton was Jack Dodds is singing on the way home.
I mean, it didn't disappoint anyone, did it, really? Thank you for that, Terry. Thank you, everyone, for watching as well. I hope you've enjoyed the stream. We weren't meant to be going live tonight, but we've had, nearly the length of time we would normally go for a Thursday. So thank you for joining in. Please leave a like as well if you haven't already. Just remember, subscribe to the channel is free to do, so it'll be greatly appreciated, and you won't miss out on any of our future streams and videos. But from myself, from Terry the Man Mistake, from Jacob Kirkbride, and from Jack Shields, thank you. Take care, and we'll see you later on. Bye-bye.